Once upon a time, long ago, in the Scottish Highlands, there was a young distillery worker. This talented young man had a dream to open his own distillery. After years of hard work, he managed to save enough money to make his dream come true. And so it was that on Christmas Day, back in 1887, the first drops of the new spirit saw the light, in a small distillery called Glenfiddich, Valley of the Deer. The man's name was William Grant. To tell the glorious story of William Grant and Sons, one of the most influential companies in the industry, it would probably take more than one video. Over the years, the Grant Gordon family has preserved a considerable reserve of whiskey, aged in the best casks. This collection is until now the largest ever and is known as the House of Hazelwood, named after the family residence. Recently, the owners decided to open the doors of their warehouses, making part of their liquid heritage accessible to the public, which they describe as a bridge between the past and the present. Today, we have the great privilege and honor of participating in something unique. Our journey begins with a small refreshment just outside Innsbruck, in the greenhouses of the Calovini Company. Here, surrounded by a sea of roses, we eagerly await the arrival of our guest of honor, Andy Bell. Suddenly, the imposing sound of a great Highland bagpipe rips through the quiet of the afternoon, announcing the arrival of our man. His entrance is triumphant, almost like a hero from another era. After a warm welcome and a small snack prepared by Rudy and his family, it is time to pour some aquavite. Moments that warm the heart and the soul. But our journey continues. Destination Zillertal. It is here, in this picturesque valley, that the brewery of the same name stands, guardian of stories and traditions, since the distant 1500s. Always a faithful companion to the locals, the brewery is now setting for our exclusive tasting. Its rooms are filled with stories of centuries of passion, work and family. The aromas rising from the kitchen and the arrival of the guests gently bring us back to the present. Meanwhile, the host, Martin Lechner, receives a very special gift. A melody from the Highlands catches the attention of those present, inviting them to gather for the welcome speech. After a banquet fit for a king, the moment we have all been waiting for finally arrives. Let the chalices be filled. Welcome back. To explore this further and perhaps to get a review of the evening, I would like to hand over to a friend of mine, son and successor of the legendary Rudy, as well as the future chieftain of the Claymore Whiskey Club, the equally legendary Tommy.
Thank you very much.
The tasting was priced in the upper class. Apart from the great age and the exceptional cask quality, have you had the opportunity to discover new flavors that you never experienced before?
Yeah, that's actually true. The tasting was definitely priced in the upper class. Maybe we have to differentiate it a bit because I would say yes, it is priced in the upper class, but you also got something for your money, and it was definitely like maybe once in a lifetime experience, especially for people who, I don't know, put your heart into this special liquid coming from Scotland. I think that if you're interested in whiskey, and then this tasting is definitely something I would personally recommend. Because why would I say so? First, when I was smelling like the first whiskey we had, the first drum, I was like, okay, it smells interesting. What is it? Like I was discovering some things I couldn't identify, and then I was tasting it because like we had Andy, and he just presented something about himself. He said who he is, who he works for, and then he just gave us the whiskey and let us taste the whiskey and have the first experience with it without any context. And so I was trying and I was like, so wow. So there were some tastes I never tasted before in a whiskey, and I was like, so okay, I didn't know that this is whiskey. So I knew it, but if I taste it, it's not like you can identify the whiskey, but it was like some complexity and some smells you aren't used to. And then he explained me why, because it's like some whiskey of a forgotten time. It's like you had red maize for this whiskey, because in this time, just a small context, all this whiskey were produced for blending. So this whiskey were meant to be in a blend, and that's what the company did. They made a blend out of the whiskeys they had, and the special thing about it was grain whiskey, not single malt, but some single malts were, I think so, they would be in, but you don't know. Andy also doesn't know, so he didn't get any answers. Only a few people know what's in there, and that makes it like kind of secret. But I think like every big distillery has its recipe and his secrets that they are doing. And it's like, why is it so different? Because this whiskey isn't produced anymore, because at this time there were new copper stills, and for grain whiskey it's not usually to use copper stills, usually use stainless steel stills. At this time it was pure copper, and it was also red maize, and red maize is something that you wouldn't find it in Scotland anymore, because they don't import it to Scotland anymore. So it's like this kind of whiskey will not be produced anytime. And what maybe also to say about and it was like this caught my attention, and it was like so interesting, and I think the journey went on, but it was like not up and up and up. It was like more up, left, right, back. It was like a walk through a park. It was like a total mess, but it was a pleasure at its time, and each whiskey was like very interesting. And I would say, I think the most important thing to say about this whiskey tasting is like, I think it's something every whiskey geek should do once in a lifetime, because these are also very limited, and it's like, I think it's also like a brand many people don't have in mind, because it only exists since 2 years, and this family where it comes from is like, I think probably the most influential family in whiskey business in the whole Scotland. And so it's actually their whiskey they used for their private events. It's like from their private cellar. I mean, this private cellar is now, I think, a few warehouses across Scotland, so a good party cellar, but it's only meant to be for the family at the beginning, and now you have the possibility to taste it. I mean, they are high priced, yes, we don't have to sugar candy it, but actually if you compare it for a 36-year whiskey from a famous brand, I don't know, Macallan or Ardbeg, it would be, I think, a bit more than this actually, but the only major difference is like it isn't written Macallan or something on it. So we have maybe to go a bit away from all these brands. I mean, these brands is like good for orienting yourself. So like, what kind of style do you prefer? But not stick only to a brand. Maybe broaden a bit your horizon and look, okay, what's maybe a bit on the space side or in the Highlands, Lowlands. They also have their own characteristics, and I think, especially for this tasting, it's important to say it's not like it's better whiskey than others. No, it isn't. It's like maybe to see it as new level unlocked. You know, it's like at a different level. So you weren't used to before, and I think you shouldn't also drink it like on a daily basis. I mean, if you have the cash, you definitely should. But otherwise, I would say it's like, I think these few times you can drink something like this that makes it special, because then it's also special in the future.
Did you enjoy your time, and would you recommend the tasting to your friends?
What I find like very positive on this evening was not only the good whiskey, it was also the good stories of Andy, who told us some insights of the whiskey business, how he got there, what's about the family. So it was like some funny tales he told us. But that's also only one part. I think the other part is like we spent the evening with friends and people who enjoyed whiskey and spent the evening around Whiskey Geeks, and I think that's I think the main essence that made this evening so special, because it was a stunning location at the Zillertal Bier. It was really beautiful, and thanks to also to the owner, cheers, he gave us the opportunity to be there. Yeah, but like I think the mixture of all, good whiskey, good stories, laughter with friends, and good food, I think what can be wrong on this side? So
that's the true essence.
Yeah. I think that's like a very difficult question. Like, would I recommend it to friends? I would say yes and no at the same time, because yes, if you're interested in discovering new tastes, new flavors, also maybe dive a bit deeper into the topic of whiskey, then yes. But I think I wouldn't recommend it to friends who had their first experience with whiskey, because sometimes it was like some flavors, they could be a bit naughty for some people who are not used to this, I would say, like strong essence. But it's like that's also but like what makes a whiskey geek so interested in this topic. For example, this whiskey is like peated whiskey, and it's like a blend of many peated whiskies on the Hebrides, so it's only Islay and there are not so many distilleries from, so there's like a specific kind of taste that represents this whiskey. And if you don't know what's your own taste, I think that could be maybe you could frighten some people of trying new whiskies, because it's like these are strong, so these are pure essence, but it's like also what makes Scottish whiskey so interesting, because they use the same yeast, they use more or less the same malt. The only major difference is water and the location where they are based, and also the woods where they are stored. But it's interesting every time, like how different they taste from each region. And I think if you don't know what each region, the characteristics of each region is, I would say maybe try a bit and train a bit in whiskey, and I think on a later stage you should definitely try it.
Okay, Tommy, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and your opinion and your experience, and see you next time.
See you next time. Thank you, Sam.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Sláinte to you.